Good morning, and good morning again. Yes, I want to welcome you this morning to the Real Talk Life Issues Coaching Series. We're on a divine assignment today to try to expose these players, try to expose these haters, and then try to empower, educate, and expose. Those are the three goals of this broadcast today. I am just delighted. Come on in. Want to welcome all those of you on our Facebook Live who are joining today. Come on in. Good morning, and good morning again. Want to welcome those of you who are joining by way of our YouTube channel. We're just delighted to be able to come on today and give you some real talk around life's issues. Now, I want to tell you right out the gate, this broadcast is not for those babies. You need to leave them out of this broadcast. And those people who are not serious about a real relationship, this broadcast is not for you. But if I got anybody today that is saying 2022 is my year and I'm headed for a happy, healthy relationships, then I got good news for you. This broadcast is designed with you in mind. Good morning, and good morning again. I'm telling you right now that we're going to get straight into it. 60 minutes of real talk around relationships. Listen, I want to thank you again. Let me give you some quick housekeeping because I am ready to get started. We've been in this 2 weeks already, and I'm telling you right now, you all have been exploding on our sites to give us feedback, and we're ready to get started to provide you with some tools today. I'm going to ask you to do three things. Number one, if we say anything that you like or can benefit from, I'm going to ask you to just take a moment and give us a thumbs up, a heart, or something. It gives us feedback and let us know if we're on the right track. Listen, if we say something a little stinging and you might need to have a little time to digest it, put it in the comments and let me know. Because one thing is for sure, this is a live exchange broadcast, and we're able to talk back and forth through our chats today. And then finally, I'm going to ask you to do me a personal favor. There are so many people struggling with relationships. There are people using this four-letter word, LOVE, and have no concept of what they're really saying. And so I'm going to ask you, if you got somebody in mind, do me a kind favor and hit that share button today to allow them to join in as well, because we're on a divine assignment. I'm unapologetic. Let me just tell you today about trying to empower, trying to educate, and also trying to expose. I'm telling you right now, we're getting ready to get started. I want to thank you again for joining us by way of Facebook Live. Let me tell you ways in which you can join and what this broadcast is really for. And so if you got a pen and a piece of paper, I want you to write down some information. Number one, you can join us on Facebook Live today, but maybe you say, listen, Dr. Williams, how can I send this to someone else and ask them to hop on? They can go to Facebook Live, or either they can type in our YouTube channel. It's the same handle, capital D, lowercase r, capital K, capital L, and capital W. You must capitalize those three, and then lowercase I, LLIAMS, and then capital MINIS3Y. Let me tell you, and then there's a phone number if you want to dial in as well. The reason why we're here today is we want to be addressing some real life issues. This ain't no play. This ain't no game. This ain't no filler. We're saying that there's some real issues that people are dealing with around relationships, and it's some straight, honest, and transparent conversation. Listen, and it is for adults. I'm telling you, we're going to also be giving you, as we have in the past, some practical tools for you to put in your toolbox. And then anyone who has any interest in healthy, happy relationships can join. The other thing I want to ask you to do is to look in the bottom left corner. Your voice matters. And so you all have been doing it already. I want to give a huge shout out to all those of you who have been communicating with me. You can, if you have a topic that we haven't touched on around relationships, or if you have another topic that you say, listen, can your broadcast address this as well? Listen, what you need to do is to send in to our bit.ly /Real Talk Your Voice. Listen, when you do that, it comes directly to our IT team, and they'll allow me to see what your communications are. The other reasons why you will want to get involved is because we're going to be giving you tools, and some of these tools I cannot put on the screen. For example, we're going to be talking about 40 ways to communicate in intimacy. That's too many bullet points to put on a PowerPoint slide, but I tell you what, if you send the communications to us, we'll be able to send that back out to you once you register as well. All right, so let's get started. It's every Saturday for 60 minutes, and I'm telling you right now, every minute counts. And so let's get into it this morning. Again, we want to tell you that if you have anyone who is interested in a healthy, happy relationship, this is the 60 minutes for you. So let's get started. We'll put our PowerPoint up. I'm going to ask you to take notes. We typically try to give about 5 minutes of review, and then we go hard in on the remainder of the health topics. This week, we know, as you can see on the screen, this is a theme around looking for love. Everybody's looking for love. I don't even have to have an amen on that one, but we know everybody's looking for love because you were founded on love. For God so loved the world. There it is right there. So we all know that love impacts us all, but the challenge is people are looking for it in all the wrong places. Now, I want to tell you, we're going to make a commitment to hang out for 9 weeks, and I can promise you one thing. There's a couple things you're going to be benefited and empowered by. Number one, you're going to discover that you have a love language that is yours and that speaks and engages you. When someone does this particular love language, it makes you feel love. We've got a link for you. We've put that in our previous broadcast. I hope you've taken that quiz already, because that's one thing you can take away from these 9 weeks is that you can now know, hey, listen, you want to communicate with me? My love language is whatever it is. All right. And it's a link that you can go to. We'll cover that just shortly. For 9 weeks, we talked about the types of love. Week 1, week 2, we talked about Jesus' love sends us. When you get the real love, it'll make you go somewhere. Oh, I know I'm talking good already on a Saturday morning. And today we're going to be talking about Jesus' love speaks to us. Oh my gosh. Listen, it's not my mother, it's not my father, it's not my sister or my brother. Y'all need to ask me to calm down, because I'm telling you right now, if you get Jesus' love, it'll speak to you. It will help you have a better understanding of this 4-letter word called LOVE. You see the other weeks that we're going to be dealing with as well. And so I'm going to ask you as we get started to put those comments in. And guess what? I'll give you a shout out as we do that. So, for example, let me just do this. I'm going to be multitasking today. Good morning, Reverend Nicole Jones, all the way from Warrenton, North Carolina, to my mentor, Mr. Gene Flanagan. I tell you right now, I'm on my P's and Q's. He has mentored me well, and prayerfully, I won't make you shame today, Mr. Flanagan, my primary school teacher who has been in my life all my adult life. Miss Patterson, God bless you today. And Sister Celestine, good morning. Reverend Sister Celestine, God bless you, from Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Sister Ebony Thomas, want to say good morning to you. Good morning to my baby girl, Sister Charity Williams, Reverend Elder Charity Williams, God bless you. And Robert Joseph, that's my good friend who's working with us on relief. Good morning, good to see you as well. Sister Ethel Fredericks, all the way from Virginia. Listen, it's time to get started. I'll keep my eyes on the chat. You can communicate with me if you got a question. 60 minutes, we're going straight in. So the next slide, please. Let's go ahead and get started. This series is founded. You definitely want to write this down. 1 Corinthians chapter number 13. And it's 13 verses, but our theme hangs around verse 13. And now abideth faith, hope, and charity. These three, but the greatest of these is charity. It is, in the New Revised Version, says that this word charity means love. And so there you have it. Next slide. As we go forth, what is this? Every week we try to give you some additional definitions of what love is. It's a 4-letter word. I want you to do me a favor. So maybe I can put your definition on the screen next week. Tell me what your definition is of the 4-letter word love. Next screen. I'm going to give you a couple of new definitions of some people who have said. One person said, it is impossible to perform all sorts of duties for someone and feel it. They say, it is possible actually to perform duties and feel little or nothing from them. Oh, I know I'm talking good. I don't put a quarter in the meter and telling somebody, be careful, because sometimes people can be doing things for you out of obligation. Look at that bullet point number 2. Love is not being a hired help. Who am I speaking to today? You're more than a dishwasher. You're more than a floor sweeper. You're more than a bed maker. I come to tell you right now, real love will tell you that you're more than just a hired help. And love is not an obligation done with a cold soul. Have you ever had somebody do something for you talking about here? And when you look around, it's just as cold as ice. Listen, there was no connection to the deed. And so here's another one. Love is not a passion that expresses itself cruelly. I don't care who you are. I come to tell you today that if you got real love, it's not about trying to hurt somebody. And then I want to tell you, the feeling must be wedded to the deed. Thumbs up right there, because this person said if you don't have no deeds, you ain't got no love. Oh, I'm talking good to somebody already. Next slide, please. And then look at some of these other definitions. This person said love is being brave enough to give someone the parts of you that are messy, complicated, and not Instagram perfect. Have I got anybody on this line today that said, you know what, if you can't love all of me, leave all of me right where you found me? That's one thing I have adopted in these 9 weeks. That listen, the good, the bad, the ugly, I tell you right now, you got to get all of me or none of me. This person says love is true when no one can take it away, no matter how hard they try. Because you do understand some folks are jealous, they're envious that you have this wonderful feeling for someone and you're able to express it. Then this other person said love is holding on to them like tomorrow will never come. Oh, who am I speaking to? If you have experienced any of these, you ought to talk to me in the chat and say, Williams, you're on my road. Listen, another person said love means risking your life to save theirs. Ooh, woo. I got to move on because I got a long ways to go this morning. This other person gave a definition that says to give everything you have and expect nothing in return. Let me tell you right now, if you got real love, don't hold back nothing. Who am I speaking to on today? The truth of the matter is when you got it and it's real, you'll give it all with nothing in return. And then this person, I love this definition. This person says, love is a word used by many, but understood by few. I'm telling you right now, I want you to put your definition of love in the chat and let me throw it up on this screen one of these Saturdays and let people see what your definition is. And then finally, this other person says love is making yourself vulnerable to someone while fully knowing they may betray you. Let me tell you right now, that's the risk you take when you extend your love. But I tell you right now, it is a feeling like no other. All right, next slide, please, because we've got a long ways to go this morning. I'm here to talk about healthy relationships. This session is about how to discover healthy and happy relationships. There's a difference in a lover and a beloved. We've been talking about that. You don't just love, but you love at someone. The reality is a real love is not only about the feelings of the lover, but it's also about the one who is receiving the love. Oh, it ain't about you putting no notches on your belt, pumping up your own ego. Oh, I know I'm talking good on today, but I'm saying a healthy relationship, listen to this, it is when one person believes in another person and shows it. Guess what? If you can't produce, I want to tell you, it doesn't have any merit, because real love is an action word. Next slide, please. And so we talked also last week about human love. Human love is between humans because, you can have a different type of love. For example, you can love a truck, you can love a car, you can love the sky, you can love a Michelangelo painting, or you can love the game of chess. There are many different types of ways to express love. But I'm telling you right now, this broadcast is about human love. And human love is The word at the bottom is bi-directional. That simply means I give it out, but I'm also looking for something in return. Next slide, please. And this is a quick review from what we had from session 2, and then we'll move right in to our lesson for today. Have you ever heard this? I would do anything for you. Oh my gosh, if I had a $20 bill for every time I done heard somebody use that statement, I tell you, I'd be well off today. Talking about you would do anything for the person. And in the doing is love. The feeling is enacted. Love is an action word. How do you say you would do anything for a person and they never see no deeds? That's why we often hear the phrase in relationships, you don't act like you love me. Well, the reality is, my friend, is that they're really trying to say to you, newsflash, I don't see no actions. I hear your mouth moving, but I don't see no action. Who am I speaking to? You're on that road today and you're saying, I'm looking for someone that can give me some action. Talk is cheap. My grandmother used to say it, but it takes money to buy land. I'm happy already today. Listen, we know that deep down in our bones, that the love is not a feeling alone. I know I'm talking good, but it's a feeling that flows into the world of actions. Actions speak louder than words, and that's what the basis of looking for love in all the wrong places is about. Next slide, please. So here's a couple quick takeaways. Love speaks out for justice, and it protects when harm is being done. Did you see that? It protests. That simply means you don't sit on the sideline when you see somebody you love being hurt. You see something, you say something. That's what real love do. And love points out the consequences of hurting oneself and others. Because can I tell you something? When you don't love, there are consequences. We're going to talk about 3 consequences today, as a matter of fact. Love allows room for anger. And if you're in a relationship with somebody, I don't care if it's spiritual, natural, or physical, if you're in a relationship with someone that you can't express your anger, you can't express your grief, or sometimes you just say, you know what, that hurt me. That's painful. If you can't express those things, then that's not a healthy, happy relationship. And then what? Love doesn't threaten to withhold itself. Ooh, who am I talking to if it doesn't get what it wants? I'm telling you right now, I love that statement because it goes squarely towards what we have been lifting up. Love is not about yourself. And then finally, love is inherently compassionate and empathetic. We will talk more about that in our characteristics of a love language. Next slide, please. All right. I wanted to also remind you, if today's your first time joining us, I want to tell you that God designed us as humans, and he put a feel-good hormone. That's it. You ought to be taking notes right there. Next slide, please. I want to talk about this feel-good hormone for a moment. Did you know that being in love causes changes in our bodies? Listen, the first word is dopamine. I'm telling you that the research says that this dopamine is a feel-good hormone, which gives us a sense of euphoria or pleasure. Listen, when you know that you're in love, your body responds favorably. And I'm telling somebody, if you've never had your body release dopamine, let me tell you right now, you're in for a treat, because I'm telling you, when it's real and when it's authentic, I'm telling you right now, the feeling is undeniable, and your body releases dopamine. And then secondly, when we're in love, our body also increases production of this norepinephrine, which makes our hearts race and give us extra energy. Did you know that your body produces hormones can help break down fat and increase blood sugars? The literature says that the blood sugar levels provide more energy to our bodies, thereby causing hyperactivity. Listen, you can't tell me that you in love. Oh my gosh, and if your body ain't never produced no dopamine and norepinephrine, let me tell you, you're living beneath your privilege, because God has so designed our bodies to respond when we get real love. Listen, next slide, please. That's why so many people in love have a lower appetite. Have you ever had somebody, listen, if I'm on your road, you ought to just type, listen, you on my road. There are times when you have had such an immense feeling for someone that you don't even feel hungry. I know can't even sleep at night. I'm telling you right now, Williams, who are you talking to on today? You ought to type, you on my road. Listen, they call that, by the way, there's a term for it, and it's called being love sick. Does this describe you? You ought to type in the chat because I want to know who I'm talking to on today. That if you've ever been in love with someone and you can't sleep, can't eat, can't do nothing but think about the person, you ought to tell God, thank you, because you are in a small minority, because so many people use this word and they have never been love sick. There it is right there. Next slide, please. I'm telling you, I got to move quickly because I've got some other words. We talked for the last 2 weeks about these Greek words. Next slide, please. Eros, philia, ludus, pragma, philitia, mania, maraka, and agape. Next slide. These are all, this right here we talked about already. If you register, you can see the link at the bottom. If you register at the Real Talk email distribution, guess what? I can send you these. I don't have time to unpack them all today because we spent 2 sessions on them. Just know that Eros is a sexual, this is the one most people know when they say they love, but there's a philia, a brotherly love, a deep, passionate love as a friend. There's a ludus, which is a playful love, kind of a crush on somebody. We've all been there. And if you're not, I pray for you because there's a place that makes you feel real nice. Maraka is being creative together. You listen to music or play a painting or cooking. Have you ever cooked with somebody who am I talking to on the day? You don't know just the joys of being in love and having a maraka. Next slide, please, because these are just Greek ways. Philautia, that's a self-love. I want to tell you that there are so many people using this 4-letter word that don't even love themselves. Who am I speaking to today? You deserve to love yourself. It's not being conceited or self-serving, but the reality is you were fearfully and wonderfully made by God. I'm on assignment today to empower somebody that you deserve to be loved. And then there's a pragma. We're going to bring some senior relationship experts in. We're working on that right now. I'll announce to you the Saturday that they're on. People who've been in love for 60 and 70 years. It blows my mind that someone could have that level of success, but it exists. And the reality is I'm going to bring some to you. And then this mania, this obsessive love. Listen, that's not godly love, by the way. These people are possessive and ultimately ends up in jealousy and violence. And then finally, the one we talked about and spent the most time on was agape. This love is a God-centered love. And can I tell you something? It doesn't have a reason. It just loves you because. Next slide, please. So we can send you those if you register down at the bottom to the bit.ly/Real Talk Your Voice. I promise you, it will be my delight to send them to you. Then we spent an innate amount of time on the 5 love languages. And so next slide, please. This is a book by an author right here in Winston-Salem, Dr. Gary Chapman, a phenomenal book. If you haven't read it, you need it in your library. He says there are 5 love languages. He did a research survey amongst thousands and thousands of people, and he came to the conclusion that there are basically 5 ways to express your love, or 5 ways that people ultimately categorize themselves as saying, when a person does this, I feel love. Number 1 is words of affirmation. Number 2, acts of service. Number 3, quality time. Number 4, physical touch. And number 5, receiving gifts. All 5 of those are different categories, and we talked about those. I can send those to you again if you register. Next slide, please. And so here we have it, words of affirmation. You're a person who like to hear words. There are persons who say, I feel love when the person spends quality time with me. There are persons who say, I feel love when I receive gifts. Next slide, please. And then there are those who say that they feel love when they receive acts of service. And then finally, there are those who say, I feel love when I have physical touch. And so next slide, please. I'll send those to you again. We also talked about, here's how I can help you as an individual. That Dr. Chapman says that there's a quiz that will walk you through how to determine what your love language is. You see, number 1, actually, I've given you 3 resources right here Number one is, if you want to figure out what your love language is, you go to this link down at the bottom, 5lovelanguages.com/quizzes, and you will be able to take the quiz. I want you to put in the chat so we can figure out how many people are engaging there. And then also there's a quiz on how to have an appropriate apology. You mean to tell me there's a right way and a wrong way to apologize? Absolutely. And then there's an anger assessment. Ooh, let me tell you, you should take these quizzes because these are tools to help you better identify who you are. Next slide, please. I'll send again that link to you if you register with us. Again, I just want to ask you, it's an action item. Part of what I want to do is to empower you, but I also want to educate you. So I want you to know one thing from these 9 weeks that you can determine that I know my love language. You will be so far advanced in your relationships because most people have no clue, and then the others have never even heard of it. Okay, so I want to ask you again, have you taken the quiz? And if so, let us know what your love language is. And Dr. Chapman says you can have more than one, by the way. And then type in the chat. Next slide, please. Then we talked about a deep dive of the 5 love languages. Next slide, please. We said that when you answer these 5 questions, it lets you know which one of these love languages you're in. So identifying your love language. When you're in a relationship, do you feel more love when your partner tells you, I love you, or praises something you did? Do you feel love when your partner surprises you with a meaningful gift? Do you feel love if your partner says they're going to take you on a weekend trip with just the 2 of you? Lord have mercy. Or do you feel love when someone runs errands or does the laundry? Or finally, do you feel love when the person you're in a relationship with holds your hand while you're walking? Lord have mercy. Next slide, please. So these are just some question prompters to allow you to figure out where you are. The reality is answering these questions can give you a hint to what your love language might be. According to Dr. Chapman, you could also try to recall what sorts of things you as a person do that express your love and what happens when you express love to your partner. These are things you should be taking notes on. In other words, what are those things that make you feel like you're in love? So taking that quiz is going to help you there. Next slide. There are benefits to the love language. Next slide as well. There are 5 practical ways to move the needle. This is what I want to help you to do. I want you to help move the needle to your own personal understanding towards a healthy relationship. There are 5 practical ways. I hope you're taking notes. Number 1 is promote selflessness. In other words, your focus is on your other partner in the relationship. There's a wonderful word called altruism. Now, listen, there's a whole section I want to send you on ways to put the other person first. It is a wonderful tool around promoting a healthy relationship. Then it creates empathy. I've got a whole document on what empathy looks like, ways that you can practice empathy as well. I'll send them to you if you register with us. And then there's one right here I want to talk really about called maintaining intimacy. I found in the research 40 questions that you can ask your partner which stimulates intimacy. Lord have mercy. Now that's too much to put on the screen, but I tell you one thing, I want you to have them. All 40 questions, and any one of them will promote and maintain intimacy. If you register with us down at the link at the bottom, I'll be too glad to send them to you. And then 5 other ways is it aids personal growth. Like you will ultimately grow as you begin to engage these practices. And then lastly, shares love in meaningful ways. Next slide, please. All right, so you see, this is just a sample of some of those questions. In case you were wondering, there are all types of stimulating questions. And the goal is to create dialogue between you and your partner. Listen, if you ask the person, what would be your dream vacation? Do you realize that you're getting into the psychic of the other partner? And it's not about you, you're asking them, and it promotes this stimulation towards this person really cares about what I think. I got 40 questions just like that. All you got to do is register and we'll send them to you. Next slide, please. Now, we talked about words of affirmation last week. So you can go back to our YouTube channel, and lessons 1 and lesson 2 are there. You can get those lessons and stimulating words around words of affirmation. Like, for example, I loved it when you did such and such. You know what? You made me happy when you did X, Y, and Z. These are called words of affirmation. But today, I want to focus on acts of service. It is that second tier of the love language. Next slide, please. And so here are 4 ways that we want to talk about giving acts of service. If you have identified that your partner prefers to receive acts of service, then you're one step closer to making your partner feel loved. Assuming you love your partner, you should want to make them feel loved, to make them feel this way. What way? That they in love. There it is right there. Whether it's your nature to give acts of service or not, know that anyone can learn this language. It is not difficult. It's very practical. And guess what? Most of the times it don't cost anything, right? So we're trying to figure out why people look for love in all the wrong places. And I contend is because sometimes they don't understand the love language. The next slide, please. And so acts of kindness, when it comes to preferring acts of kindness, here are 4 things that you should do. If you determine that your partner's love language is acts of kindness, pay attention to the small things. What your partner wants to do on the next trip together. Do you see? It's creating that sense of intimacy. How much sugar your partner adds to the morning coffee. Lord have mercy. I know folks that can go to the restaurant and order for their partner because they know I'm just that good. What time your partner's favorite show is on. You should be able to engage in these acts of kindness. Take notes if you can't remember. Next slide, please. That's number 1. Pay attention to the small things. Number 2, consider the things your partner doesn't enjoy doing. Woo, I know I'm on somebody's road now. Listen, if you want to move the needle, you got to figure out what the other person really don't like to do. For example, if your partner complains about taking out the trash, researching financial terms, cleaning the space between the wall and the dresser, or walking the dog, guess what? If you know that's their love language or acts of kindness, then you can take charge and ask to do the task for your partner. And if your partner doesn't like dealing with the cable company, offer to take the responsibility for the monthly cable bill. Next slide, please. These are just ways to engage acts of kindness. Then number 3, you can focus on acts that are easy for you to accommodate into your schedule. For example, pay attention to your partner's calendar each week and see if you can aid in acts of service. Whatever it is. Number 2, maybe your partner has a limited time between their workout in the morning and their first meeting. And maybe you can help accommodate into their schedule. Plan to have coffee and breakfast ready and waiting. Once again, we're trying to move the needle towards a healthy, happy relationship. Next slide. And then I want you to know you got to learn how to utilize your strengths. For example, if you understand something your partner doesn't, offer your services. Why would you sit there and let them struggle when that's a strength of yours? Simply saying, is it possible? Can I assist? Have you thought about this? Not in a demeaning, condescending way. This is about promoting healthy, happy relationships. And then secondly, if you're more handy than your partner, for example, focusing on handyman tasks like changing your partner's oil, if that's your strength, take the charge on without asking them. Or fixing the broken light bulbs in the bathroom, change the bulb. That's all it takes. And you're promoting a healthy, happy relationship. Next slide. And so you can also give acts of service, but you can also receive acts of service. And if you prefer to receive acts of service above all the other love languages, then it's important. Hear me when I say these words. It's important to tell your partner. We're not mind readers. I know some of us make you think that we got ESP, but I wish somebody would type in the chat, I don't have ESP. And if you want me to know, you have to tell me. When you tell me, now I'll have some accountability. Just practice that. If you love acts of service, then tell your partner, I've come to discover that the way I feel loved is when I receive acts of service. Just make sure you're kind and patient, because guess what? As you ask for these things you want, acts of service aren't always easy to do. Be kind and be patient. Just like the good master is kind and patient to us, we should extend that same kindness and patience to our other partners. And you cannot assume that your partner will do everything you ask simply because you prefer acts of service. Next slide, please. Now, I promise you that I will deal with the real subject for today, and that is let it go. Listen, my brothers and my sisters, my friends, I have been waiting all week to tell you and talk to you about this wonderful concept called let it go. I wish you would just type in the row, let it go, because that's what we want to talk about. We want to spend the next few moments on let it go. I see Teresa Harris, God bless you for joining us as well. Reverend Alvin Hughes, God bless you as well, my good friend. We're always delighted to see all of you. Let it go. Let's get busy, because this is what we've come to talk about today. Let it go. Next slide. We want to deal with this topic, recovery rate. Oh my goodness, I've been waiting all week to tell you about it. And this recovery rate is simply to say that if you are in an unhealthy relationship, you can recover. But there are different ways that you can recover, and we're going to talk about them today. And to start this conversation, we're going to talk about this big concept called wounded warriors. When I think about the number of people that are in relationships and are in relationships wounded, I'm telling you, it's called trauma. So many people are trying to plow through relationships, and they got trauma all in front of them, trauma all around them. And guess what? When they look behind them, they can see the hills of trauma that they've already come through. I'm telling you right now that there are so many people who are here who are all but ready to give up because they have become wounded warriors. Let's go. Next slide. And so as we talk about this concept of wounded warriors, I want to start this narrative today around a gentleman that I think you may know, but I want to bring back to your memory. This gentleman who was a cardiologist named Dr. Conrad Murray. This man, this doctor, this physician was the late Michael Jackson's doctor. You may recall back in November of 2011, he was found guilty of manslaughter in the untimely death of his most famous patient, Michael Jackson. Now, you need to know that a physician, before they can be licensed, have to be sworn in under this concept called Hippocratic Oath, which simply means they raise their hand and promise to do no harm. Listen. That became critical in his litigations, because they ultimately determined that Dr. Murray never intended to harm Michael Jackson, and certainly not to cause his treatment to cause his death. He didn't wake up one morning saying, I think today is the day that I'm going to kill Michael Jackson. No, he did not do that. My friends, but this is the takeaway. The guilty verdict sent the message that despite his good intentions, he must still be held accountable for his involvement in his patient's overdose. You say, why does that have anything to do with us today? Let me just help you real good. Next slide. Because when the verdict came, we found out that this man never intended to harm Michael Jackson. Well, guess what? We have people that are in relationships with us who never intended to do us no harm. But I got good news for you. The reality is there's some accountability there. Can I get just one person to walk with me just for a little while to tell me that I'm on your road? Because despite the fact that you didn't mean to do it, doesn't dismiss the accountability. Listen, as humans, as we walk through this battle zone of unforgiveness, most of us end up hurt and maligned. We become wounded veterans, listen to this, of a war that continues to rage inside of us, even though the battle itself has ended a long time ago. I want to put a quarter in the meter and talk to somebody right here. You know that you're in a wounded veterans war category when you can't let it go. I need to help somebody right there, because I knew a lady when I first started pastoring. She came to me and talked about how she was just so ravished, and how she had been so abused, and how this man had took advantage of her, and how this man had just really took her down through the valley. I felt so sorry for the lady. And I said to myself, oh my gosh, you need to get rid of this man. So I wouldn't tell her that, but I'm saying to myself, if this man is doing all this, you need to get rid of him. I asked the lady when she finally calmed down, well, ma'am, are you still working through the divorce? She said, oh no, that was 20 years ago. Listen. The lady is a wounded veteran. And I'm telling you right now that sometimes we have people who are still in the battle zone of unforgiveness, and they're wearing this badge of wounded veterans. And the reality is you have to let it go. Yes, you got to let it go. If you're looking for a healthy, happy relationship, God knows you got to let it go. And watch this. Most of us end up hurt by someone who wasn't even intending to hurt us. Who am I speaking to that can say, you know what, Williams? God knows you're on my road now. I love this person. I knew in the beginning, when I allowed myself to take the risk to love them, that they wouldn't do anything to hurt me. But in the end result, because of their selfishness and their own personal ego and this person's entitlement, it left us injured in the wake of their collateral damage. That simply means you incidentally got hurt because a person had their own personal selfish egos in front of yours. Ooh, I know I got to move on, but I'm telling you right now, I want to help somebody to understand today that sometimes you are wearing this badge of wounded veterans simply because you won't let it go. And I want to take the conversation a little bit further. This is real talk, y'all. I ain't talking about no children. I'm talking about some folks who are trying to go to the next level. The reality is you were simply collateral damage. That the person was trying to really get their own personal needs satisfied, and they were not personally, intentionally trying to hurt you. That's liberating for someone, because you've been mentally trying to make sense of why someone would go out and try to hurt you. But the reality is, it's not that they were hurting you as much as it was they was trying to satisfy their own personal, selfish, and egotistical gains. Listen, in the military, I'm from Jacksonville, and on the base down there, you can hear those Marines down there. They be down there dropping bombs and everything else in military practicing. And every now and then, you hear this term called friendly fire. That is harming those on the same team while focusing on another. I've seen it where the intentionality was innocent, but guess what? We end up caught in this proverbial friendly fire of someone who claims to care about us. I came to expose somebody's mindset today and to set you free. That listen, you've been putting your focus on the wrong thing. It was never because you weren't good enough. It was never because you weren't the one who deserves a healthy, happy relationship, but it was the frailty and the fault in the person who was trying to go after their own personal gain. Somebody ought to talk to me right there and let me know if I'm on your road. Next slide, please. We're talking about letting it go, and we're dealing with this battle zone of unforgiveness. Listen, incidentally, we often get hurt by those who somehow want to help us. Just like Dr. Conrad Murray, he ultimately was trying to help Michael Jackson and in the end caused the man more harm than he did help. Now listen, I want to tell you today, if you're taking notes, in many cases, we get bruised by the most by people trying not to hurt us. Ooh, hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. Think about this. No cheating spouse sets out to break their partner's heart. Last time I checked, I'm a local pastor. I've counseled hundreds of people, and never have I counseled anybody in my office to say, excuse me, Mr. Preacher, I'm marrying this person to break their heart. Because I promise you now, my name won't be on that certificate. Somebody ought to say amen right there. But the reality is, the cheating person, it is their self-consumed fulfillment of their OWN, of their own needs, that drives them to the irresponsible regarding their actions. This allows them to be irresponsible towards their actions. Do you know why? Because they got their self-consumed issues in front of their spouse. And guess what? That, my friend, will cause a frayed and broken relationship. Most don't wake up saying, how bad can I break my spouse's heart? No, but what we do is say, how can I satisfy myself? And in satisfying yourself, sometimes you create collateral damage for those that you love. The wounded warrior is simply one result. Hear me when I say these words. It's just one result of what happens when a partner puts their own desires above all else. Now, be careful. It's not just a sexual relationship, because sometimes parents put their own desires before their children and create unhealthy relationships. Sometimes spouses do it, but guess what? I know families that do it as well. They have their own personal gain above the overall gain of the family. And you talk about some family problems is when you got people looking after their own desires over the good of the family. It'll break up a healthy, happy relationship every single time. And I want to leave, before I leave this slide, I'll tell you again, it's not your fault. Next slide. And this recovery rate, because this is what it's really all about. Incidentally, we don't learn how to recover and restore our own sense of emotion, health and well-being. If we don't do that, then we become caught in a cycle that has a similar viral impact on those around us. Listen to me. I'm on assignment to expose this mindset that keeps you in bondage, because the reality is, if you don't learn to push forward, then the same treatment that you receive, you will actually impose it on those around you. Who am I talking to on today? This is why you have to let it go. Because if you don't let it go, the same pain that was inflicted upon you has got you in this battle zone, and it will keep you there. And unfortunately, it'll cause you to inflict that same pain on those around you. I know I'm talking good. I've seen good people in relationships. I've seen good people have good people who are partners, and they can't seem to let the past go. And you know what I tell people? I ain't paying the price for Pookie. If you can't let Pookie pay his own price, then leave me right where I am. I told you, this is real talk for real people. And I'm telling you right now, if you're in a relationship and somebody's trying to make you pay the price on what somebody else did, you ought to call them out and tell them it stops right here. Because the reality is, I'm on recovery and my rate is moving forward. Listen, the manifestation shows up in what we call a container that looks rich. Here it is, lavish and luxurious on the outside. You've seen people. Oh my gosh, I just told you about someone. Look, you look at them, they look like they got it together. They well dressed, well smelling, well walking, well riding, but on the inside is a person who is devastated because they have been on the battleground of unforgiveness. And I stopped by to tell somebody today, it is time for you to plant your flag in the ground and declare that I'm ready to let it go, because I don't want to inflict what I'm feeling on somebody else. And the content of the character and love and connectivity doesn't seem to exist in them. They're nothing but a shell Oh, I know I'm talking good that you see these people. Next slide, because my time is running out. I told you we got some good things for you. For those who want to do some additional research, here it is. In Acts, the 3rd chapter, you should read the whole chapter. But I'm telling you, focus on verse number 6, because guess what? There's a man who has the wounded warrior syndrome. I believe he got some cousins in the world today because they feel very much the same way. This man, he was hanging out at the gate called Beautiful. Now listen, the man was wounded so long. People have been in these broken, toxic relationships so long until, much like this man, they would only ask for what someone else determined that they needed, rather than asking for what he needed. And in this, when you read this text, you will find that this man was asking for money, but what he really needed was to walk again. Oh my gosh, I'm trying not to get happy, because this is real talk for some real people. I'm telling you right now, stop thinking you don't deserve what you need. Who am I speaking to? You deserve better. Quit settling for what you think somebody else wants for you. Oh my gosh, I'm telling you right now, that man who was lame at the gate had been in that negative situation so long until he didn't even think that he should deserve what he needed. Can I tell you something? Somebody ought to say, I need a man. No, you don't need no man. What you need is a husband. Oh, thank you, Father. I'm trying to help somebody today. Somebody say, oh, Father, just give me a woman. No. What you need is a wife, because I'm here to tell somebody there's a paramount difference between a man and a husband and a woman and a wife. People are not asking for what they need. If you didn't take anything else from our session today, quit settling for less. Quit letting people tell you what they think you need. When that man was at the gate, folk they tossed some change to the man. And the reality was that was an easier and more convenient way to deal with his pain. Woo-hoo. When I stop by to give some real talk to somebody and tell you that you deserve better, and it's time for you to start asking for what you really deserve and stop settling for what somebody thinks you need. Oh, thank you, Father. Next slide, please, because I'm getting happy, because somebody needs to understand that there's better for you. You just got to ask for it. Now, listen, the takeaway is simple. Hurt people typically hurt others close to them. Can I help somebody today? That, listen, you would be surprised at the number of people that took a survey if they only understood that hurt people really, listen to this. If you've ever been the victim of someone whose weaknesses have left you feeling murdered in your heart, in your soul, or in your body, part of the healing begins when you decide to let it go. That's your liberation on today. I want to tell you, the literature suggests that most perpetrators are themselves victims. Can I tell you something? That if you peel back the layers of the onion of those people that are hurting you, you will find deep down inside, Lord, help me on this Saturday to help somebody to understand that the person that is inflicting the pain is actually in pain themselves. That's why it is critical for you to let it go so that you don't perpetuate that same level of pain on someone else. I'm talking about healthy, happy relationships. Next slide, please. I'm almost finished. Y'all just stay right with me just a little bit longer. How do you identify wounded warriors? We told you on the commercial yesterday, and I'm going to deal with them real quickly. Next slide, please. So there are basically 3 types of wounded warriors. Wounded warriors are insulators. Wounded warriors, number 2, they're isolators. And then wounded warriors, number 3, are inhibitors. Next slide, please. I want you to ask yourself, what kind of person are you hanging out with? This person that's inflicting pain and cause you to be wounded, what kind of person are you hanging out with today? My time is about up, but I'm going hard in for 60 minutes. The first wounded warrior is an insulator. Listen to the characteristics of this person. They wrap themselves in such a disguise that no one can access their hearts and hurt them again. They've been hurt so bad until the reality is there's so many blankets and tears around their heart, it would take a dynamite explosion to try to get to them. And even then, you wouldn't be successful. They go to work wrapped up in insulation, protecting themselves. They get married. Who am I speaking to on today? In marriages and still insulated. Your own spouse can't even get to your heart. And that's the problem, my friend. They interact with people at church through these thick pads of insulation, come in, sing, shout on the choir, preach from the pulpit, usher on the Lord's door. And guess what? Thick pads of insulation, they determine that ain't nobody getting close to me again. They living in fear of what happened in their past, and they're fearful that it will occur again, which causes them to be smothered in all possibilities of human intimacy. In other words, the reason why they're not intimate is because they got this insulation pad saying it ain't gonna happen again. And in your insulation, you're cutting yourself short of a very real relationship. They have grown physically, but dwarfed emotionally. You know these people. They look mature on the outside and like a little kid sucking their thumb, tears in their eyes on the inside, but they're trying to protect this person on the inside. They have a motto that says, don't get close to me. Who am I speaking to? If that's your motto, you ought to ask God to empower you, amen, to be able to let it go and get rid of this onion mentality. Next slide, please. Then the second group are these isolators. I wanted to talk about them because a lot of us got these persons in our circles. They isolate themselves to avoid the possibility of being rejected. Unlike the insulators, the isolators may stand before you, listen, but it is very clear that they are not there with you. They're there before you, but they're not there with you. There was a song that said, your body is here with me. Lord have mercy. But your mind is on the other side of town. Who is it that I'm speaking to today that says you on my row again? Because the truth of the matter is I'm dealing with an isolator that they're scared to be loved because they're fearful of their past. And guess what? I'm telling you that they left their hearts at home. They removed from their day-to-day interactions. And like a patient, listen to this, in the intensive care unit, the isolator's emotional health may be so fragile that they do not want to risk taking the body of pain off life support. There it is right there. Some people are so fearful that if they take themselves off life support, that they'll get hurt again. They not only remain alone in the crowd, that's a whole lesson right by itself, that a person, how is it possible to be in a crowd and still be lonely? I'm talking to somebody today, and the good master wants me to tell you that you got to make a declaration. It's time for me to let it go. They're afraid to integrate into their environment for fear of rejection that would trigger a setback of those past feelings. And then finally, they created a home defense system. I wanted to make sure I had time to talk about this until when they get ready to engage. You ever had an alarm system and you trying to put the code in to get us to be able to deactivate the alarm, and the door open and you done set the alarm off because you don't know the code? I'm telling you that there's some people called isolators. They got this home defense system, and the reality is getting to them is like going all the way down the hill and back, because they got a home defense system. And sometimes they don't even know how to deactivate this. Next slide. I'm almost out of time. Then we have these inhibitors. I wanted to talk about them because they respond to wounding of others with a sense of pessimistic frustration that is unparalleled. Listen, you know these people. Enough is never enough to make up for what they've lost. When you have an infraction with them, they keep bringing it up. They won't let it go. They keep reminding you over and over and over because they continue to carry it around. And guess what? I want to tell you, if you're dealing with an inhibitor, no matter the accomplishments, no matter what they obtain, they are always going to be disappointed and trapped in this perpetual state of frustration. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with what you have done. It has everything to do with the fact that they themselves need to let it go. They become frustrated because the good things in life seem to leak right out of them like an old rusty bucket. Who am I speaking to on today? They attempt to find happiness by looking at places, money, promotions, reinventing their appearance by putting on more makeup or wearing more jewelry or trying to attain more status. But the reality is, in the end, they're never going to be satisfied. And you need to know that those are called inhibitors. Next slide, please. I'll send these to you as well. So here's the solution as I close today. If you are in the Wounded Warrior Solution, like a patient recovering from a life-threatening automobile accident, we must push through our pain in order to return to a state of healthy functionality. My closing to you is this: the speed to which we recover ultimately is directly related to our willingness to move forward and take a risk again. We must learn to forgive. I close with this statement. And I don't believe all the times we can forget. But this lesson, Real Talk, says if you can't forget it, at least release the hold they have on you. Woo! There it is right there. Next slide, please. I always close our session talking about what love is, but I need to remind you what love is not. Next slide. Love is not the kind of feeling that hurts the one you're in a relationship with. Don't ever let nobody fool you that is not love. No. Someone is intentionally breaking your heart, my good friend. That's not love. You see the second icon, the two people are working against each other, pulling at each other's heart. My friend, that is not love. And then in the bottom right, the man has his fist bolted up. And let me help you real good. I got 2 reasons to go to jail. And I'm telling you right now, I don't play that. What I didn't raise, you won't raise. I'm just need to say that to somebody. I'm talking some real talk to somebody. Abuse is never equated to love. And you need to know that is not a sign that someone loves you. And finally, the young girl at the top, holding her hand in a relationship where a man is frustrated and wanting to inflict pain. And you see the results in the center picture. It is a young lady who has suffered domestic violence. I close my session today by telling you that love is not love until you give it away. But this, my friends, is not what love is. Next slide. Today, I want to thank you. If you're just joining us for the first time, next slide. Here's some resources. You may say, Williams, where are you getting your resources from? Well, here you have it. These are 5. I'll send these to you as well if you register. The 5 love languages. I told you that's by Gary Chapman. Love and respect. That's some of the principles that I talked about today. How to expand. How we love, expanded edition. And listen. In a week, I've been promising you this. I'm going to start talking about boundaries. My friends, my time is up. My 60 minutes is up. But somebody needs to know that relationships have boundaries. And we're going to get at it real soon. I want to tell you that. Join us if you want to know what boundaries are and what they look like. Again, I want to thank you for your time today. If you'll do me a kind favor, register with us. And I promise you, we'll be glad to send you some of these resources. Just let us know what you like. It's Real Talk. My time is up for you today. I never like to close. I need to borrow 1 or 2 sentences from you, 1 or 2 minutes from you. I have a book here, and I'd love to send it to you as well. It's called 100 Ways to Love. Now, listen, this right here says, never contradict your spouse or your partner in public. It is not a good day when you're contradicting your spouse or significant other in public because it diminishes their respect. And then secondly, I want to leave this with you. Your anniversary matters. Don't let nobody fool you, even if they say it's not important. The good news is these are ways to show that you love. And I'm telling you right now, not only that, I'll try to give you 3 each session. And the last one I want to leave you with this week is write a love note and leave it on your spouse's pillow to find later. You will be surprised at that simple gesture of what it promotes: healthy and happy relationships. I want to thank you again, Sister Sandra Stevenson, my sister, Sister Trivia, also my sister Daphne. I see you all on the broadcast today. I am just elated. Sister Ebony Thomas, Pastor Michelle McLeod, thank you. I want you again to know that I am on an assignment to do three things: to empower you, to educate you, and help you to expose those persons in relationships that are not doing you any good. I love you today, and I always like to close with this statement that, listen, if you're going to love me, you have to take all of me. And if you can't take all of me, then you leave me where you found me. Listen, listen, listen. That's a good place for us to end, because your best days are ahead of you. And I declare unto you that 2022, it is your year to walk in your season of healthy, happy relationships. Share this with someone else. We'll see you again next Saturday with some more real straight talk. God loves you, and so do I. Can I pray for you? It will be my delight to end our broadcast. Father, thank you for a great session. So many wonderful people who are being blessed by the desires of the ministry of materials that you are providing. We ask, Lord, that as we go from day to day, help us to shine this light, that your love speaks to us. It speaks directly to us, and then we can share that love with someone else. Today is my prayer. In your son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen. God bless you. Until next time, I love you, and we'll see you next week. God bless.